Now to the first story. District manager tries to throw me under the bus when caught not doing his job and inadvertently provides self-documentation to the president. Owner that he's lying. I'm the HR director for a small company of between 250 and 300 employees, and I comprise the entire HR department. Part of my role, obviously, is recruitment. I and the operations director have been working with a couple of our district managers lately because they just aren't providing quality training and engagement to really good new hires that I've gotten after they've left orientation with me. So basically, quality employees are firing us. For good reason, and it's making my job harder. I can live with that and not take my beef to the DM, usually because my president. Owner is aware and has the ops manager working with them on it, so my job isn't at risk. Doesn't really matter if a few people don't think I'm good at my job when I know I am, and the guy who signs my checks does too. Where I lose it, though, is when someone falsely accuses me of something to my president. Especially when I have clear documentation otherwise. Today was one of those days, but it turned out better than I could have expected this time. So the DM emails the president complaining that he has a lot of current openings that I have not staffed and that I'm not sending him people. President very kindly emails me and includes the DM in question and the ops manager asking if I could just update everyone on my current standings and progress. Not accusatory at all. I send back a very matter-of-fact and optimistic email including the 11 recent new hires, 3 of which are from today, the 53 upcoming interviews, and include the 12 candidates I've recommended for hire from him that he has not responded about at all. These are for anywhere from PT, entry-level positions to full-time managers. I figure case closed. They can see we are making progress. Don't really care if the DM looks bad for not following up. I'm going to keep doing my job well regardless. The DM replies all with an absolute scathing email saying he's not seen any new employees. Who are I talking about? He's interviewed everyone I've sent him even if I'm not aware. And basically says prove it. Okay, so I do. I email him and the president and the OM with a list of the names of the employees and their position, the candidates and positions I've sent him with no response, and documentation showing that he has not been updating his applicant tracking files showing anything on his end at all, so none of us have any way to see if he's actually doing anything. I even offered to resend all of the specific emails that I've sent him for each candidate with all of my notes summarized for his convenience if he's misplaced them, including the timestamp they were originally sent, so he can prioritize the older ones. Not only is his response livid, but it's completely unprofessional and self-incriminating. He replies all to the entire exec team and says I'm sorry I'm not as organized and perfect as you, and then proceeds to admit to not using our software at all, not keeping track of my emails and notes, and having no clue as to who these people are because he isn't actually following company policy. The ops manager is dying laughing, saying, "I've never seen someone so angry that you answered his question." Meanwhile, the president has it in writing that not only is the DM inept, but he's a liar too. It's been a good day. TLDR, DM calls me into the ring against my wishes. Throws the first punches. I bury him and he's complaining that there was a fight at all now while the boss watches it all go down and my credibility goes up. Now to the second story. School VP says you can take us to court, and my father did. This incident took place in India in the early 90s. The school where my sister and I had studied was in my hometown. We knew almost all the teachers since they were practically our neighbors. When it came to the time I graduated from school, the principal had retired and the vice principal took over as the principal. The vice principal was also from the same town and for some unknown reason had some sort of grudge against my father. In local gatherings, etc., he would always try to belittle my father at all chances he could get. My father would normally let it pass since he knows that getting into silly arguments with such a bully is totally unproductive. When my sister and I had joined the school, my father was required to pay a refundable deposit of 5,000 per child, which would be returned back at the time each child graduated from the school. 10,000 rupees of 90 seconds was a large amount then, and is equivalent to 95,000 rupees of the present time. I graduated in 1989. When my father inquired about the refund, the VP had informed him that since my sister would be graduating in 1 year's time, both the deposits would be returned together. So, when my sister graduated from school, my father requested the school to refund both the deposits. There was no response even after 2 weeks, and my father personally went to the school to demand the refund. The VP, being the egotistical bully, started arguing with my father, stating that the school can't refund the deposits. The argument became very heated and he outright refused point blank and said, "We are not returning the deposits. Do what you can. You can take us to court if you want." My father went silent, got up and left the school, came home. Saturday down with mom, went through all the school-related documents she had kept. My mom had a very meticulous documentation system. She used to save every receipt, bill, stub, etc. He found the receipts for the deposits. He took them to his lawyer friend. My dad informed his friends whose children were in the same school about the issue. The lawyer filed the case and took the school to court. The school couldn't provide any reason for withholding the deposits and fighting with the parent. My dad won. The school was instructed to pay back the deposits with interest and the court dues. My father's friends who were in the PTA took up the issue in the subsequent PTA meeting and got the school's trustee board to ensure that such issues won't be dealt with in the same manner and all deposits will be refunded in time, and strictly warned the VP not to bring personal grudges into school business. Other parents who were owed deposits but had forgotten about it start claiming them. Cost the school a lot to pay back the deposits. TLDR, VP of school informs that they won't refund the refundable security deposits and challenges my dad to do what he can, that he can ever take them to court. My dad does take them to court, wins the dues with interest. VP gets reprimanded by the trustee board, and PTA, other parents start claiming the deposits too. On to the third story. Sure, I can do that. Obligatory, I'm on mobile. And English is my first language, but spelling is hard and autocorrects lets me down. Have you ever met those people who just have no business raising children? I sure have. I refer to them as stepmother and father. Now, this is not the subreddit to go into the details of why children should stay far away from them, but to give an idea. Stepmom loves power and is skilled in the art of physical and emotional abuse. Father has never protected another soul in his life. Now, my two siblings and I are adults now and have gone our various ways, each choosing a different level of contact with our father and no contact with stepmom. We all were content with this and figured that all would be good now that no minors remain in their care. But oh, were we wrong. I'm minding my own business and I receive an email from father. You see, they decided that they didn't like their empty nest and lack of control of another human, and father liked the idea of some extra money, so they were applying to become foster parents. Of course, he worded this very differently. Now, to become foster parents, the state social worker would be sending out a questionnaire to us. Well, 2 out of the 3 kids, they didn't even bother with the oldest. So he let me know that I'll be receiving an email from a social worker, and he requested that I compete for this questionnaire and send it in. Now, I don't respond right away, and my sister reaches out to me regarding this as she is not a fan and does not want to fill it out. She informs our father of all the reasons that she doesn't agree with them fostering children, and he decides to ignore the facts of our childhood and claim that she has no reason to be upset. She just needs to fill out the form honestly so they can foster. Father also reaches out to me again, complaining about my sister's response and asking me if I'm going to be difficult or just fill out this questionnaire for them. He claims that our childhoods were just fine, and he just needs this done. Well, who am I to not honestly fill out this form? I tell him that I'll fill it out. I pull up the form that the social worker sent and fill it out honestly. I detail specific events that occurred that clearly illustrate why they shouldn't be in charge of children. My sister also chooses to follow his request and responds honestly to the social worker. He doesn't get to directly see the form, but he's happy that I choose to fill it out. Father and stepmother are confident that they're going to become foster parents. Father is seeing the $sign, and stepmother is ready to have some power. Except, the social worker calls them in for a meeting. She brings up the various issues and situations that were listed in the forms we filled out. Father and stepmother are quite shocked, and they don't have any good responses. The state decides that they would not make good foster parents, and their application is denied. And you better believe that father was quite upset and asking us what did we say? Why would we mess this up for them? So on and so forth. Dear father, you asked me to fill out the form honestly, and I did just that. The truth did not help your case one bit. TLDR, sketchy parents want to be foster parents. Ask their adult kids to answer a childhood questionnaire honestly. Adult children answer honestly about sketchy parenting, and sketchy parents' application is denied. On to the third story. My dad served my detention. When I was a freshman in high school, I went to a school that was 30+ minutes drive away. They had a policy that 3 tardies with a good excuse or not across a semester would automatically assign after school detention. I was a really good kid, never got in trouble. ever, always really nice and friendly to everybody. Worked really hard at everything I did, from sports to studies. Even if I wasn't the best at either, I tried super hard, and all my teachers knew that and all had a good rapport with me. My parents declined to sign the detention notice and explained to the administration how I had zero control over when they left, and especially no control of road traffic conditions. Even after us leaving extra early to have a time cushion, I was only late by a couple of minutes on the rare time I was even late. But the administration declined to remove the detention assignment. I asked my parents to just let it go and let me serve the stupid detention just to be done with it, or just decline and leave it at that. But they had other plans. The next day, my little professor-looking social worker counselor dad with the big glasses, briefcase, worn-down notepad, and his prized 20-year-old Mont Blanc pen signed himself into the school to serve detention the next afternoon, much to the embarrassment and discomfort of the administrators. They had a hard time holding eye contact with him and were visibly uncomfortable. They found an empty room to put him and checked in on him once or twice, even offered to let him leave early, but he declined so he would serve the full amount of detention they assigned, and wrote sentences for an hour until detention was over. To my recollection, after that, there seemed to be a differentiation between excused and unexcused tardies. I don't know if for the whole school, but for us anyway. It was never an issue for me after that. But like I said, it was rare anyway to even be a couple of minutes late. At the time I was so embarrassed, but looking back now it's kind of funny. And I appreciate the point he was making in not letting me get punished for something I didn't do wrong and had no control over. On to the final story. The HR lady doesn't like me much. So this happened at the company that I currently work for, but it was many years ago. I did not plan the outcome, just a coincidence caused by insisting on malicious compliance. I work in it, and when I started, my job was rather entry-level, but it was paid as a salary position. After some years, the company decided to make it an hourly position, which I did not like for a variety of reasons. The company's main hourly worker pool was for manufacturing and assembly lines, so the company structured its hourly policies around that position. Rigid start and end times, scheduled breaks, and sick time billed to your earned PTO. A lot of these policies were not really compatible with my availability and the type of work that I was doing. Not to mention, some of the benefits changed considerably. Hourly employees were supposed to use a time clock, but those were only in buildings that had manufacturing. My manager at the time totally understood why I was disgruntled, and she came up with a few workarounds, one of which was to enter a generic 40-hour time card for me in the system every week, which was cool cause it meant that I did not have to use the punch clock. If there was any overtime, she would go in and fix it later. There was nothing that I could do about the change to hourly. But being me, I was pretty vocal about it, and my attitude eventually caught the attention of the HR lady. She also got wind of the whole time card deal, so that came to an end. I gave in and started using the punch clock. No more edits. At some point, my manager needed me to start the day in a different building that had no punch clock. I don't think she was aware that there was no punch clock, so she had to make an edit to my time card for that day. Well, the HR lady saw the edit and assumed that I was still being obstinate. Out of the blue, my manager scheduled a formal type meeting with me in one of the local conference rooms. She presents a document for me to read and sign, which is a formal reprimand for not following the policy regarding the time clocks. I was instantly furious because I was following the policy, but she sent me to a site without a punch clock. She had no choice, as the HR lady was the one who wrote the reprimand, and told my manager to have me sign it. I read through the write-up and realized it was very poorly written, as a grade schooler had prepared it. Lots of copy and pasted text, points that did not apply to the issue at hand, and no clearly defined problem with the desired resolution and probationary period. So I refused to sign. I pointed out the many mistakes, the points that did not apply, and the lack of a resolution plan or time period. My manager agreed with me that the reprimand was bullshit, but the HR lady wanted to go down this path. I thought, well, then we were gonna do it right, and I was gonna make her work for it. I demanded a rewritten form with a clearly stated problem, the desired resolution, and a time frame for when the matter would be considered resolved. My manager said, the HR lady is not gonna like that. She is gonna want to talk to you directly. I said, good, I will gladly tell her to her face. We scheduled a meeting. I explained to the HR lady that the reprimand process was an opportunity to not only point out mistakes but also to correct them. The lack of an improvement plan in this write-up meant it could not meet those requirements. Begrudgingly, the HR lady accepted my complaints and agreed to redo the write-up. To my surprise, I never heard from her again about this issue. I had kinda forgotten about the whole thing until they did some restructuring in it, which made me realize I didn't want that hanging over my head unresolved. I decided to formally request a copy of my file from HR, and to my surprise, the reprimand was not in it. I emailed the HR lady asking about this, and she explained that she rescinded it. So it's gone. I was a little confused that she hadn't mentioned this in the months that had passed, but was glad it was over. Sometime later, I was having lunch with my director, and he brought up the reprimand. He was asking whatever happened with that, and I told him HR rescinded it. Apparently, HR cannot close a reprimand without the employee's leadership signing off on it, which was about 4 different people. Not a single one would agree to it. It turns out that my malicious compliance with the reprimand process forced her to write a detailed, intelligible reprimand including an improvement plan. All the extra detail she had to add made it clear to everyone that it was bullshit, and she couldn't add it to my file. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.